Yeah.
Chocolate?
I am, but I just can't eat it. You answer.
So the next 3 weeks, that's what we need our little bell. We're not eating yet.
Yeah.
So we did each of this now before Give you a moment to get standing. Or like 5 more sandwiches.
Oh, I forgot. I was standing in front of it.
So you've made it through 3 of 10 weeks, right? So the first 3 weeks are really nice, kind of, I feel like framework, foundational weeks, right? Around trauma, suitcase, taking a look at self-care, right? Laying the groundwork for these next 3 weeks. So we're going to be talking, or I'm going to be talking about weeks 4, 5, and 6. So if you're kind of thinking about the structure of our RPC Plus, weeks 4, 5, and 6 are tips. Those together make up the trauma-informed parenting skills piece. And I'm going to grab one. You're going to get these tomorrow, but I just want to show you one of them. And some of you might already be familiar with these. Use them. We used a boombox analogy for tips because Amy and I are so hip, right? So we chose something from the 80s. But all of the tips go along with, and you'll see this as we move through these 3 weeks. They go along with this idea of a boombox theme, music or speaker, or otherwise turning things up, turning things down, changing the station. To be a little fun with it, but also to help caregivers remember. So caregivers each receive one of these, and you'll receive one tomorrow. And it's a nice way, kind of a compact way for them to remember everything they learned during weeks 4, 5, and 6. You will be spending more time tomorrow afternoon. You'll be spending some more time tomorrow afternoon practicing tips. So we'll actually be getting toys out, and you'll be playing and doing some activities. We think it's really important for you to experience the activity as a participant and see kind of how Amy delivers that. And then you can make notes on how you might do that differently. But you'll be doing the activities and go a little more in depth for all 3 weeks tomorrow. For our purposes right now, I'm just going to kind of provide an overview of what tips include and know that you'll be going deeper tomorrow. So one of the things that I really like is the importance through all of our PC Plus is that you connect the check-in to the previous checkout and homework. If I'm attending a group and you give me homework, and when I come in the next week you don't ask me about it, I quickly realize, oh, I don't really, it's not important. It's not important, or if I don't do it, it's not a big deal, but if you're actually checking in and asking, it just reinforces learning and connection. And so make sure, if you somehow do a different checkout or homework, that you're keeping track of that. So the next week, we'll be able to talk specifically. I feel like I'm constantly just in your way. Sorry, guys. So you can start with the check-in. Here's a mindfulness activity, the nature sounds. And this is a perfect example. I remember recently being in Newport doing tips. And one person loved this mindfulness activity, and another said it made him want to pee. So what we try to do with all of the they're just different ones, right? And so it might be a mindfulness activity that the caregiver leaves feeling as though, oh, I'm going to try this at home with the children I'm taking care of, or this kind of worked for me, I'm going to do this a little more. Or each week is a different one, so if they don't like it, they're just kind of trying it on and they don't know what to do it. And so these are really nice age sounds. And so we first begin by explaining that TIPS have two components. So when we introduce the idea of this trauma-informed parenting skills, there are two kind of tongs of it, right? There's the skills for attuning to your child. So we want to attune, increase attunement, increase positive connection and relationship. And then we want to decrease behaviors. By decreasing the behaviors, we're increasing caregivers' skills for managing those behaviors. So those are the two kind of focus area, I guess, that over the next 3 weeks that we'd be introducing. And so this is a nice kind of, you're doing a sell. You're selling this. Sometimes, I don't know if this has been your experience, sometimes individuals may feel like they know what they're doing, right? And so who was it that was saying, like not, maybe it was over here, the idea of it's not all the child's work, right? And sometimes it takes some navigation to realize that maybe the way you've parented in the past that works for non-traumatized kids or worked for you in other settings or with other children isn't enough or isn't going to work, right? And you need a little bit more, and it's no reflection on you. And so this is kind of the selling of why someone would want to be open to TIPS. It's not because someone has failed or doesn't know what they need to know, but it's giving them some additional skills for their toolbox. This is just a lot of information. We ask that you at least put it up and refer to it. It acknowledges all of the professionals and the different interventions like PCIT and CARE and helping the non-compliant child that we derived all of the content for TIPS from. There's a lovely little video that I won't show, but it just kind of sets the context for TIPS. What does trauma-informed parenting look like? What does attunement look like? It's a cartoon. It's a nice, cute music, nice graphic to be able to start to talk about TIPS. And so this is where we begin the boombox, tuning in, right? So we always have to tune in. I was driving down Dorset not too long ago, and there's the Christmas house with the lights that dance to music. And it always hits me too quick, and it takes me too long to tune into the right station for the Christmas music that they play from the house. It goes with the lights. So when I see tune in, it just makes me think of, we often aren't tuning in as much, but just the tuning into the right station. So I don't need to tell you what attunement is, right? But this is a nice time to start talking about what does this word attunement mean? What is that like to be attuned to someone and feel like someone's tuned into you? That sense of oneness, of being aware of and responsive. How many of you have seen the ukulele video? Right? Quite a few of us? Right. It's a really sweet video, video link that you can share to talk about and then have caregivers and participants kind of process what did you see the caregiver or the parent doing that was tuned in, how did you know that they were tuned, nice way to start to talk through that. This is also an important place. I would make a note that when you're teaching this, don't skip over the play part. Some of us are more open to and more accepting of play being an integral part of having a relationship with children. As an outpatient therapist in the past, I also had my share of parents that struggled with why am I playing with their kids? Why are they paying me to play? And when was I going to do the real work? Or the idea that I want to include them in play was just really, there was sometimes can be some significant resistance. And so this is where we start to talk about play, the importance of play for learning. I love the Fred Rogers quote here. We talk about child-directed play, that we're not saying you play all the time. We're not saying that you don't set limits or parent, or that there aren't teachable moments, but we're also talking about the importance of play and how we interact and learn from and connect through play. And then, so with the tuning in, we kind of drill down a little bit more in the boombox, and in order to tune in, there are certain skills we need to turn down, certain things that we need to practice doing less of, and certain skills that we need to practice doing more of. So we're watching the videos maybe tomorrow, or they've watched the videos, they were sent already?
No, they did not see these videos.
I'll pick some to show.
Oh,
I'm
yeah,
not sure.
maybe do one of them, and then we can do more.
And so here, in the past, we didn't have videos, and it can make sense what we're talking about, and we would sometimes do a role play. It just seemed like for our caregivers to do the actual practice of turning things down and turning up certain skills, we actually needed something for them to watch to see what we're talking about. So I'll show you one brief clip. I'm going to ask Amy to come up because I always do things wrong on the computer. And what we do is we show this first video. Before we talk about what we're turning down or turning up, we show the video, and the premise is I'm asking the caregivers at the end of the video, what did you see the caregivers do?
What age do you want to see? Preschool, school age, or teenager?
Oh, I heard teens. Let's go teens. So we're asking them at the end of the video what they see the caregiver do, what kind of behaviors the caregiver was doing, and then how the child seems to be responding to or engaging with that behavior. And so the way it's
You
set
might
up,
recognize somebody in the video.
we set it up so that at the end of the video we're talking about the turn it down skills, right? They're already identifying why those should be turn it down skills, and it's a nice way to introduce the concept.
Maybe not. Maybe the internet's having a sugar.
So tonight we're gonna have salad, stir fry. I'm not sure what we should have to drink or not. Oh, you wanna make sure you cut them in really thin slices.
Okay, I'm just taking my time.
Yeah, but what's your finger? What's your finger? What's your finger?
I know how to cut.
Okay, okay. You don't have to be smart aleck about it. It's really important that this looks nice because you have your friends over for dinner tonight, right?
Right.
Don't you want them to like how good it is?
Okay, yeah, but their standards, they aren't as high as yours.
Well, I don't know. I mean, you always want to impress your friends, so.
I think I'm doing just fine, thanks.
You gonna work in the red tomatoes yet?
Yep, when I'm done. I'm not done yet.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, should I tell you? That's my actual daughter. She's never like that in real life. I, however, have my moments.
So you can see, we talked through, right, like what were some of the behaviors of the caregiver. Do you want to give me a couple of those? What did you see the caregiver doing, or pestering, exacting, really personal space?
Judgmental facial expressions.
Judgmental facial expression, almost called her a smart ass. Yeah.
Let's see if I can do better.
Oh, it's not up.
So there was assuming, what?
Assuming that her daughter really cared how much clothes were cut.
Right, an assumption that she would care how it looked or what her friends thought about that, yeah.
Also said in the message that she really wasn't capable of cutting up those
Right,
vegetables. so
Right,
that-
right. And then we talk a little bit after watching the video about how did the child or adolescent respond to that. And based, depending on the different age of the child, each of the children respond in different kind of adverse ways. It's not how we're wanting them to respond, so we talk through that a little bit. And then we move into watching this video, and we do the same conversation. What did you see the caregiver do in this scenario? We also then ask for how the child or the responds.
So we're gonna have salad, stir fry. I'm not sure what else for dinner, but at least this for now.
Oh my God, look at how good these look. I'm so excited to eat them. I used to not like tomatoes, and I just started liking
Do
them.
you remember that?
Yeah, I love them now.
You must feel really proud of yourself that you've tried so many new foods.
Yeah, I used to just like be so stuck in my views about foods.
Right. Well, that's a perfect size for to go into the salad.
Are you sure? I don't know, it's kind of thin.
No, that's great. You did a great job.
Okay,
Thank you so much.
yeah, sure.
I really appreciate being able to cook dinner with you.
Thanks.
Oh, you're on to the red tomato now.
Yep, yeah. I'm so excited to have stir fry. We haven't had it in so long.
Yeah, you must be excited about it. It's been a while since we've had it.
Yeah, I know. I love it.
I know it's one of your favorite things.
It actually is.
Isn't that great? It's good for you and it tastes good.
2 in 1.
It's like that every day.
Should use that for our teen foster parent recruitment ad.
It's exactly like this, every day. So we showed you both videos, but what you can do is you can show the first video of what you're wanting to turn down, and then we start talking about what are the things that we're wanting to use minimally, right? If we're trying to enhance our relationship and be really intentional, what are some of the things that we want to turn down? And we talk through the questions, directions, and no, don'ts, and stops. And oftentimes we get here, and then the ask is, so what do I do? Like, what can I do if I can't tell them what to do, or say no, don't stop, or ask questions? We're not saying you can't ever do this, but we are saying if you're trying to dedicate a specific period of time each day to really connect, that you try to avoid these during that time. And then throughout the rest of the day, you're really trying to turn it down. So like try to avoid the unnecessary questions, right? Trying to avoid the directions when they're not needed or unnecessary, and then trying to avoid the criticisms or the no's, don't stops, or the judgment about how you're cutting, right? And so I won't go over all of this, but we have nice slides that break down the reasons. We do some brainstorming as a large group, or we could do pairs or tables in your groups, and then kind of as a big group talk through why. It's important to spend time on each of these areas, because this can be really challenging for folks. Either the directions or questions, there's going to be one thing that someone is going to be really stuck on. Well, I don't know if I can turn that down. Or feeling like they shouldn't turn it down, right? The idea of, sometimes I've experienced caregivers or adults say like, well, the child should just do what I tell them to because they should, and not because I'm, attuned to them, right? So this is your time to kind of be laying the groundwork and having conversations and providing some explanation and content behind why we're avoiding these things. And then we start to introduce the turn it up skills. Okay, so it's I hear you, I feel you, I see you, I appreciate you. Tomorrow I think we'll be doing activities in each of these areas. So we start to introduce the concepts. So there's an activity here where you mirror your partner's movements and expressions, and then you kind of check in and talk about that. So this is a paired activity. I hear you. It's an activity where as pairs, we listen for 2 or 3 minutes completely to the other person about what their day's been like so far without being able to respond whatsoever. And then we summarize, and then we take turns and talk about what that really meant to truly listen to someone and to truly be heard or to feel heard. I see you is a little bit, I think, less intuitive. At least for me, it was kind of the most clunky of skills for PCIT and care and for tips. It's really the pointing out behavior. I see you drawing a picture. I notice you're taking your time coloring or staying in the lines. It's kind of a play-by-play, so there's an activity here that we teach the concept of seeing. So there's kind of a fun activity that you might be doing tomorrow about that. And then we talk specifically about, me saying, oh, you're drawing the sun, and now you're drawing a dog. I like how, you're putting purple on the, I'm not gonna do that with a teen. I know that, having worked with residential, teens in a residential setting, that would not have gone over really well. And so how we see teens is different, right? How we notice, how we pay attention. We don't want it to seem as though we're mocking or that we're being ingenuine or inauthentic. Kids are the best readers of fake. And so this is where you're trying the skill on, but you still have to be yourself, and the caregiver still has to be who they are. And then the I appreciate yous. We talk specifically about specific praise, right? So instead of a way to go, a specific, thank you so much for sharing the toys when Bobby was playing with you. I really like how I think it was really nice in the video, Amy said, it's really nice being able to work with you. I really like this. It's very specific praise. Thank you for taking the trash out, and I didn't even ask you to, or whatever. Or thank you for doing it when I told you to.
I think another piece to consider in that is that for some kids, having that direct praise can result in them feeling shame. And so just really knowing your child and what's going to be appropriate for them.
Yeah, I think all of these skills, right? You know the child, or will know when there's a little bit of a reaction, and sometimes if there's a reaction, it doesn't mean that you shouldn't be praising, but it could also mean that there's discomfort, or maybe my experience with praising in the past hasn't been positive, or hasn't been genuine, or I don't know what to do with that. I know when I was working with CARE in Cincinnati, we were doing all of the visitation for Hamilton County Jobs and Family Services. We worked with birth parents, and we taught CARE, so it's like we taught tips to birth parents that were doing visits. And what we quickly realized is we couldn't be coaching the parents to do specific praise with their child if they had never experienced praise, or felt that it was important, or that they were worthy of praise. So we actually had to do a lot of coaching of parents, right? And so that's something to be aware of too. So if you have a caregiver that doesn't feel like praise is warranted, or feels really uncomfortable with receiving or giving praise, this can be a challenge as well. And then you also have kiddos that might have different reactions. I had one child in particular that it wasn't the praise, it was an actively domestically violent home. And it was an 8-year-old boy, if I remember correctly, and his reaction was to the ICUs. So anytime mom was noticing or pointing out what he was doing, he became really agitated. And it wasn't something that dissipated, and so that's something that we just kind of pulled back from and asked for her to focus on other areas that seemed to have the child respond favorably to. Yeah. And so we introduced the turn it down skills. Why are we turning these down? Turn it up. Why do we want to turn up these skills? What are those skills, right? The importance of having fun. You've shown the 2 different videos so they kind of see for a particular age group what it looks like when you're not doing it, or what it looks like when you're turning things up and turning things down. So we also have some nice images of folks having fun, right? Fun could look very different. And then there's some nice reminders of turn it down, turn it up. So I just did that in like 8-10 minutes, I don't know, more than that. But it would be 2.5 hours in class. So you really would have a lot of discussion and conversation. And once we get to this, yes, yeah, it is wrong. Yeah.
Oh, no.
So make
I'm
it,
going to have to send all of you an email to correct your thumb drive.
yeah. It's okay.
Thank you.
We give you grace to be human. Yes, thank you. No, it usually doesn't look like that. So part of what we do at the end of this night, if you have enough time, so ideally if I'm teaching the first week of tips, which is week 4, I'll get to the end and I might have like 20 minutes left of the night. And that's where I get toys out. And I have caregivers pair up and they practice playing. One is a child and one is an adult, and they practice trying to minimize the turn it down skills. They try to turn it down, and they try to practice the I see you, I hear you, I appreciate you, right? I feel yous. And so they practice that as pairs, hopefully so that each person gets an opportunity to do that. And if you have more time, then that's great. You can get into triads after they practice it and get comfortable with it. And you can have someone observe. And so the observer then could provide feedback to the caregiver or the adult in the role play of what they did really well and what they noticed. And then they can keep swapping. And by actually being an observer, you learn the skills a lot faster. That's the research on the observation. You might run close on time, so you might only have an opportunity for them to do a little bit of practice, but it's really important to get them to practice it a little bit. And that's when we can move throughout the room and kind of provide feedback and notice and praise them. So you're doing some parallel work with them, right? You're doing the same skills with the participants while we're trying on this new turn it up, turn it down at the tables that you're asking them to do as well. And so they do the practice. So we talked about the little different ways that you can do the triad practice or observation. It can be easy for you to think, oh, we'll just practice it a little bit. You're really going to miss the mark of TIPS or RPC Plus if you don't really spend time practicing where caregivers feel comfortable with the skills. We know the videos are well-behaved children, right? Like we also, at the last teen video. We also are asking the children in role plays to be well-behaved children because we want our caregivers to just have an opportunity to try on skills that can be a little awkward. The first time people practice, there's a lot of giggling in the room. I don't know if people have experienced that. Have you experienced that, right? There's some discomfort. There's some, like, I'm not used to playing toys as an adult pretending to be a child. It's just a little awkward. And then what you have is then you have caregivers going home and practicing, and then they come back the next week and say, it was so much easier playing with a child, right? And then there's some comfort, and then you revisit it, and you need to practice it more, right? Because we need to become equipped to do it and feel comfortable doing it with well-behaved, right, kids in role play, so that we can practice the skills when behaviors are getting escalated and deregulated and a little bit more conflictual.
I love that.
So we give them homework to practice. And then we have the checkout question, what's your intention for this coming week? So while I pull up the next week, I'm going to give you like a 5-7 minute break, if that's okay. I just want to make sure people need to make a phone call, check your phone, get something to drink, or step outside, get something warm, or get some cookies. So 5-7 minutes. We'll be right back to move into week 5, which is the TIPS